3 scary true summertime horror stories. The first story, the story of Lucas. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Jake here, and today, I've got a story that's gonna send chills down your spine. This is a true story from last summer, one that still haunts me every time I think about it. It's not just about a trip gone wrong, it's about how someone I thought was a cool dude turned out to be something else entirely. If you're into real-life creepy stories, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss my next video. Alright, let's dive into this nightmare from last summer in Chicago. Buckle up, because this one's a wild ride. My name's Jake, I'm in my mid-20s, and I live in Chicago. Summers here are the best, think crowded bars, rooftop parties, and Cubs games lighting up every TV screen in the city. It was a Friday night, and I was out with a big group of friends at this dive bar we loved. The place was packed, the air thick with the smell of beer and fried food, and the Cubs were playing on the big screens. I was posted up at the bar, sipping a cold one, cheering for a home run, when I struck up a conversation with this guy standing next to me. His name was Lucas. Lucas seemed like a regular guy. He was about my age, maybe a year or two older, with a laid-back vibe and a knack for keeping the conversation going. We bonded over the Cubs, trash-talking the opposing team and geeking out over stats. The bar was loud, people were shouting, and my friends were scattered around, dancing or playing pool, so it was just me and Lucas for a while. He was funny, charismatic, and had this energy that made you feel like you'd known him forever. By the end of the night, we swapped Instagrams. His profile looked legit, tons of followers, photos of him hiking, partying, and traveling. Just a normal, outgoing dude, or so I thought. Now, if you've ever hit it off with someone at a bar, you know how it goes. You exchange numbers or socials, talk about linking up again, but when you wake up the next day, sober and back to reality, you usually don't follow through. It's just bar talk, right? That's what I figured would happen with Lucas. We'd had a good time, but I didn't expect to hear from him again. Boy, was I wrong. The next night, Saturday, I was out with my crew again, this time at an outdoor bar and restaurant right by the water. It was my buddy Ryan's birthday, and we were having a blast. The sun was setting, the vibe was chill, and we were singing "Happy Birthday" as Ryan blew out the candles on a cake our server brought out. I posted a quick clip of it on my Instagram story, nothing special, just us being goofy. About an hour later, as we were hanging out on the patio, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around, and there was Lucas, grinning ear to ear, giving me a bro hug like we were old pals. "Hey, man. This is my spot on Saturdays," he said, all enthusiastic. I was a little surprised to see him, but it wasn't weird or anything. Chicago's a big city, but you run into people sometimes, especially at popular spots. I introduced him to my friends, saying, "Yo, this is Lucas, the guy I met last night." They vaguely remembered seeing him at the bar, but they hadn't really talked to him. Lucas stuck around for a bit, blending in with the group. Everyone was a little drunk, the music was bumping, and it was just a fun night. He seemed to fit right in, cracking jokes and buying a round of shots. I didn't think much of it. A week later, Lucas hit me up out of the blue. He asked if I wanted to go golfing with him on Sunday morning. Now, I'm no pro golfer, honestly, I'm pretty terrible, but I've always wanted to get better, so I thought, why not? I tried to get Ryan and a couple other friends to join, but they were all too hungover or had early plans. So, it was just me and Lucas. We met up at this local course, played 9 holes, and had a good time. He was chill, poking fun at my awful swings but in a friendly way. After golf, we grabbed some burgers and beers at a nearby spot, then I headed home to crash before the workweek started. It was a solid day, nothing out of the ordinary. A couple weeks later, I ran into Lucas again at another bar. Chicago's like that, you start seeing the same faces at the same spots. We hung out, had a few drinks, and he mentioned he was planning a hiking trip to Arizona to see the Grand Canyon. My ears perked up at that. The Grand Canyon had been on my bucket list forever, and Lucas made it sound epic, hiking trails, desert vibes, maybe hitting some bars in Phoenix. He asked if I wanted to come along, and I was pumped. I checked my work schedule, made sure I could take a few days off, and said yes without hesitating. I tried to convince Ryan and a few others to join, but they all had excuses: work, money, the usual. I asked Lucas if any of his friends were coming, and he just shrugged and said, "Nah, man, I'm going solo. Just thought it'd be cool to have you along." His Instagram made him seem like a super social guy, always surrounded by people in his posts, so I didn't think it was weird that he was going alone. Maybe he just wanted a low-key trip. We booked our flights for August 15th to the 18th, flying out of Chicago to Phoenix. Lucas handled the Airbnb, which he said was a sweet deal, and I was just excited to check off a bucket list destination. We landed in Phoenix late at night, grabbed a rental car, and stopped for some food and a case of beer before heading to the Airbnb. By the time we got there, it was pushing midnight, and I was beat from the travel. We cracked open a couple beers, and Lucas was in high spirits, ready to keep the party going. But I was fading fast and just wanted to crash. That's when I noticed something off. The Airbnb was nice, modern, clean, out in a quiet neighborhood, but there was only one bedroom. One bed. I hadn't even thought to ask about sleeping arrangements when we booked. I mean, who does that? You just assume there'll be enough beds, right? I pointed it out, trying to keep things light. "Yo, Lucas, where am I sleeping?" He gestured to the couch in the living room and said, "It's a pullout, man. You're good." Then he added, "Don't worry about the cost, I got you. Free trip to Arizona, you can't complain about a couch, right?" He had a point. A free stay in a cool city. I wasn't about to argue. I pulled out the sofa bed, threw on some sheets, and it was actually pretty comfy. I passed out almost instantly. In the middle of the night, I woke up to a faint noise. I'm a light sleeper, seriously, a creak in the floor or a car horn a block away will jolt me awake. I heard footsteps, soft but deliberate, coming from the direction of the kitchen. I rolled over and saw Lucas shuffling through the living room, grabbing a glass of water. He didn't say anything, just nodded at me and headed back to his room. I figured he was just thirsty, no big deal, and went back to sleep. The next morning, Lucas was up early, banging around in the kitchen and yelling for me to get ready. The sun was blazing, and we were headed to the Grand Canyon. I'd seen pictures, but nothing prepared me for how massive it was in person. The place is unreal, jagged cliffs stretching out forever, colors shifting with the sunlight. We picked the Bright Angel Trail, Bright Angel, a tough but iconic hike. Let me tell you, I was not ready for it. I was sweating buckets, gasping for air, while Lucas was practically jogging, laughing at me to keep up. We stopped for breaks, snapped a ton of pictures, and soaked in the views. It was exhausting but incredible. After a few hours, we made it back to the car, and I was starving. We hit a deli on the way back to Phoenix, grabbed some sandwiches, and crashed at the Airbnb for a quick nap. That night, we went out in Phoenix, hitting a string of bars. Lucas was in his element, downing drinks like a champ. I tried to keep up, but I was obliterated by the end of the night. We were too drunk to drive the rental car back, so we took an Uber to the Airbnb. Back at the house, Lucas blasted music for a bit, and I stumbled to the couch, plugged in my phone, and passed out. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up again. My bladder was screaming, and my mouth felt like the desert we just hiked through. I got up to head to the bathroom, but I froze when I heard a noise, a creak in the floor, like someone stepping on a loose board. I scanned the dark room, my heart racing a little, but saw nothing. Shaking it off, I went to the bathroom. Midstream, I heard a faint click, like a door closing. It had to be Lucas's bedroom door. I finished up, went to his door, and tried the handle. Locked. I knocked softly, but no answer. Whatever, I thought. He's probably asleep. I went back to the couch and crashed again. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache. The first thing I noticed was my phone. I'd left it charging on the floor next to the couch, but now it was on the coffee table, unplugged. I frowned, trying to piece it together. Did I move it? I was hammered last night, so maybe I just forgot. But something felt off. I brushed it aside and got ready for the day. We didn't hike, thank God, because I would have puked, but we spent the day driving around Phoenix, checking out cool neighborhoods and the botanical gardens. Lucas was his usual high-energy self, pushing for more drinks that night. I wasn't feeling it, but he convinced me, and yeah, we got trashed again. We stumbled back to the Airbnb around 1 or 2 a.m. Lucas insisted I take the bed that night, saying it was only fair. I was too tired to argue, so I grabbed my bag, headed to the bedroom, and shut the door. I didn't lock it, didn't think I needed to. The lock was one of those flimsy ones you could pop with a paperclip anyway. I plugged my phone in next to the bed, set it on the mattress, and passed out. I don't know how long I was asleep when I woke up again. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't place it at first. It was like my body knew before my brain did. I reached for my phone to check the time, but it was gone. The charging cord was dangling from the outlet to the floor, empty. I sat up, my heart pounding, and checked the floor on both sides of the bed. Nothing. That's when I looked over the edge of the bed and nearly had a heart attack. There, sprawled face down on the floor, was Lucas. I screamed, "What the hell are you doing?" He jolted awake, looking confused, like he'd just snapped out of a trance. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, and mumbled something about being so drunk he must have wandered in here, thinking it was his bed, then crashed on the floor when he realized I was there. But it didn't add up. He was on the far side of the bed, away from the door. How do you, accidentally, walk around a bed and lie down on the floor? I accused him of taking my phone. He played dumb, saying, "Check under the bed, man, maybe it fell." He got on his knees, looked under the bed, and immediately pulled out my phone. "Here it is, bro." I stared at him, and for the first time, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. The friendly, outgoing Lucas was gone. His eyes were cold, his smile forced. I grabbed my phone and said I'd sleep on the couch, but he insisted he'd take it. He left the room, and I locked the door behind him. My mind was racing. Had he taken my phone? Twice. What was he looking for? I was still a little drunk, so I managed to fall back asleep, but not for long. I woke up again, and this time, I knew exactly why. At the foot of the bed, barely visible in the dark, was Lucas's silhouette. He was just standing there, staring at me. My blood ran cold. I didn't scream this time, I was too freaked out. He sat down on the bed and started rubbing my foot. That's when I lost it. I yelled, "Get the hell out." He didn't move, so I jumped up, shoved him off the bed, and pushed him out the door. He didn't say a word, just sat on the couch, watching me like some creepy NPC in a video game as I packed my stuff. I grabbed my bag, threw my toiletries together, and called an Uber to the airport. I wasn't staying another second. Lucas didn't try to stop me. He just sat there, staring. I got to the airport as the sun was rising, paid $35 to change my seat on the flight so I wouldn't be next to him, and stared out the window during boarding to avoid his eyes. I didn't tell my friends what happened until later that day. I needed time to process it. When I did, Ryan and a couple others said, "Dude, we told you he was weird." They pointed out that both times we'd run into him, he was alone. Then it hit me, he probably saw my Instagram story that night at the bar and showed up on purpose. Stalker vibes. I blocked his number and Instagram, but before I did, I dug into his profile. I found an old post of him with some friends, but none of them were tagged. In the comments, I saw a guy who looked like he was in the photo. I DM'd him, asking if he still knew Lucas. He replied in minutes, "Nah, dude's a freak. Run." He told me he and his buddies had cut Lucas off after some creepy incidents. He wasn't shocked when I told him about Arizona, saying, "That guy should be in jail." I still don't know what Lucas wanted with my phone, but I'm just glad I got out of there. This whole thing messed with me for weeks. I kept wondering what would have happened if I hadn't woken up that night. Was he just drunk and acting dumb, or was he up to something worse? I'll never know, and honestly, I don't want to. All I know is, I'll never trust a normal dude I meet at a bar the same way again. The second story, the man on the beach. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Ethan here, and today, I'm diving into a story that still gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. This is a true story from last summer, and let me tell you, it's one of those experiences that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the world. If you're into creepy, real-life horror stories, you're in the right place. So grab a snack, turn off the lights, and let's get into it. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss my next video. Alright, let's head to Ocean City, Maryland, where this nightmare went down. My name's Ethan, I'm 21, and I'm a college student from Maryland. Last summer, I was home for a few weeks between semesters, just trying to soak up the break before diving back into the grind of classes and exams. I'd been itching to hang out with my two best friends, Noah and Caleb. We've been tight since high school, but now that we're at different colleges, it's rare for all three of us to be in the same place at the same time. So, when we realized we had a free weekend, we decided to make the most of it and planned a trip to Ocean City. Noah's family has a small beach house there, nothing fancy, just a cozy two-bedroom spot a couple blocks from the sand. It was perfect for what we wanted, a few days to chill, catch up, and maybe party a little. We piled into Noah's beat-up SUV on a Friday afternoon and made the drive down. The weather was classic East Coast summer, hot, humid, probably pushing 85 degrees, with that sticky air that clings to your skin like a second shirt. As soon as we rolled into Ocean City, you could smell the sunscreen and saltwater in the air. The town was buzzing, families everywhere, kids running around with ice cream cones, and the boardwalk packed with tourists hitting up the arcades and food stands. We spent the day messing around, playing skee-ball, eating greasy boardwalk fries, and people watching. The beach was a sea of umbrellas and coolers, with lifeguards blowing their whistles every 5 seconds to keep people out of the restricted zones. It was just a normal, fun summer day, and we were loving every second of it. That night, we headed back to the beach house, fired up the grill, and cooked some burgers. We cracked open a few beers, played some drinking games, and laughed about old high school stories. By midnight, we were pretty buzzed and starting to get restless. Sitting around the house was fun, but we wanted to do something. That's when Caleb, I think, had the idea to head back to the beach. There's something about the ocean at night that's just different. It's quiet, almost eerie, but in a peaceful way. The crowds are gone, the air cools down, and it's just you and the waves. We didn't plan to swim or anything, just hang out, maybe walk along the shore. So, we grabbed some hoodies in case it got chilly, our phones, and a flashlight Noah found in a kitchen drawer. Then we headed out. The beach house was only a short walk from the sand. We took a side street, crossed the wooden boardwalk, and went down the steps to the beach. As expected, it was deserted. The only sounds were the steady crash of the waves and the faint hum of the boardwalk lights behind us. The moon was half hidden behind some clouds, so there wasn't much light, just enough to make out the line where the water met the sand. We walked along the edge of the surf, letting the cold water lap at our ankles every now and then. We were joking around, talking about random stuff, college, girls, plans for the rest of the summer. It was chill, just three friends enjoying a quiet moment. After a while, we stopped near one of those wooden lifeguard towers they take down at night. We plopped down in the sand, lying on our backs, staring up at the sky. The stars were faint because of the clouds, but it was still a vibe. We were just shooting the breeze when Noah sat up suddenly, his voice low. "Yo, is that someone over there?" We all sat up and looked where he was pointing. At first, I didn't see anything, just a dark blur near the shoreline, maybe 50 or 60 yards away. But then my eyes adjusted, and yeah, there it was, a figure, just a silhouette, walking slowly right where the water met the sand. We figured it was just some late-night beachgoer, maybe someone like us who wanted to enjoy the quiet. But something about the way they moved caught my attention. It wasn't a casual stroll, like someone taking a midnight walk. Their steps were stiff, almost robotic, like they were forcing each one. Their arms didn't swing naturally, they just hung limp at their sides. And their head, it was tilted down, but not all the way, like they were staring at the sand or maybe scanning it for something. We stopped talking and just watched, the three of us sitting there in silence. My stomach started to tighten, and I whispered, "What the hell are they doing?" Caleb shrugged, trying to play it cool. Maybe they lost something, like their keys or whatever. Noah, always the jokester, chuckled and said, "Bet it's some drunk tourist who dropped their wallet." We laughed it off, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. I kept glancing at the figure as we went back to talking, but my eyes kept drifting back to them. A few minutes later, I noticed something, they'd stopped moving. They weren't walking anymore. They were just standing there, completely still, maybe 30 yards away now. They were closer. Way closer than before. That's when things started to feel wrong. Really wrong. We tried not to stare, not wanting to make it obvious we were watching, but it was hard to ignore. Caleb broke the silence, his voice quieter now. "They've been standing there for, like, 5 minutes. Who just stands like that?" Then Noah said something that made my heart skip a beat. "He's not just standing, Ethan. He's looking at you." I laughed nervously, thinking he was messing with me. "Nah, he's staring at the sand, dude." But Noah shook his head, his face serious. "No, look closer. His head's tilted right at you." I froze, my eyes locked on the figure. I couldn't make out their face, but the way their head was angled, it did feel like they were looking at me. Before I could say anything, Noah grabbed the flashlight and clicked it on, aiming the beam at the figure. I wanted to tell him to stop, but it was too late. The light hit them for just a second before the battery started dying and the beam flickered out. But that 1 second was enough. I saw him. He was pale, almost grayish-white, like he hadn't seen the sun in years. No shirt, just wet jeans clinging to his legs, like he'd been in the ocean. His arms hung limp, just like we'd seen from a distance. His head was tilted at this unnatural angle, not broken, but wrong, like his neck wasn't quite right. And his eyes. God, his eyes were wide open, practically bulging, staring right at us. The second the light hit him, he moved. No warning, no hesitation, he broke into a full sprint straight at us. I can't even describe how unnatural it looked. It wasn't like a normal person running. It was like he launched forward, going from 0 to 100 in a split second. His arms barely moved, and his head stayed tilted as he charged. All three of us screamed. I don't even know who started running first, but we were up and bolting across the sand, our feet sinking with every step. My lungs were burning, my heart pounding so hard I thought it'd burst. Caleb was behind me, yelling, "Go! Go!" as we sprinted toward the boardwalk steps. I didn't dare look back. I could hear the waves, the wind, my own ragged breathing, but nothing else. No footsteps, no sound of him chasing us. That scared me even more. We didn't stop until we hit the street at the top of the boardwalk steps. Gasping for air, we finally turned around, expecting to see him right behind us. But the beach was empty. Completely empty. No figure, no movement, just the waves rolling in under the dim moonlight. We stood there, frozen, trying to make sense of it. Where the hell did he go? Noah panted, his hands on his knees. Caleb was shaking his head, muttering, "That wasn't right, man. That wasn't normal." I looked back at the sand where we'd been running. No footprints. Not ours, not his. Just smooth, untouched sand. We didn't say much on the walk back to the beach house. My mind was racing, replaying that split-second image of his face, those wide, unblinking eyes, that pale skin. When we got inside, we locked every door and window, pulled the blinds shut, and sat in the living room, too wired to sleep. We stayed up until the sun came up, jumping at every creak in the house. I kept expecting to hear footsteps outside or see that pale face pressed against a window, but nothing happened. Thank God. The next morning, we tried to laugh it off. Noah said it was probably just some cracked-out homeless guy trying to scare people. Caleb nodded, but his eyes told a different story. Deep down, none of us bought that explanation. The way he moved, the way he appeared out of nowhere, the lack of footprints, it didn't add up. We spent one more night at the beach house, but we didn't leave the house. No more late-night beach walks, no more boardwalk adventures. We packed up early the next morning and got the hell out of Ocean City. Over the next few weeks, we tried to move on. We went back to our separate colleges, texted here and there, but avoided talking about that night. Then, one night, Noah texted me out of the blue. He said he'd been having dreams, nightmares, really. The same one over and over. He'd wake up in the middle of the night and see that guy standing in the corner of his room, soaking wet, head tilted, just staring at him. No movement, no words, just those wide eyes locked on him. I told him that was messed up, but I didn't tell him the truth, I was having the same damn dream. Every detail was identical, the guy, the posture, the dripping water. Sometimes, I'd wake up thinking I heard wet footsteps in my hallway, but when I checked, no one was there. Then, about a year later, I was scrolling through a local Ocean City Facebook group. Someone had posted a grainy photo taken at night on the beach, with a caption that stopped me cold, "Does anyone know who this creepy guy is? Saw him standing by the water at like 1 a.m. I clicked the photo, my hands shaking. It was blurry, but I knew it was him. Same posture, same pale skin, just staring down at the water. The comments were even worse. Dozens of people said they'd seen him too. Some said he stood there for hours, motionless. One person claimed they watched him walk into the ocean and never come back out. Another said they found wet footprints on their back porch, 2 streets from the beach, with no prints leading to or from them. I don't know what we saw that night. Was it a person? A ghost? Something else? All I know is, I'll never go back to that beach at night. Not now, not ever. That image of him sprinting at us, those wide, unblinking eyes, it's burned into my brain. I still check my locks every night, and sometimes, when I'm alone, I swear I hear the faint sound of waves, like the ocean's calling me back. The third story, the incident on the boat. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. It's Logan here, and today, I'm bringing you a story that still makes my skin crawl. This is a true story from last summer, and let me tell you, it's one of those moments where you go from chilling and having a good time to pure panic in, like, 1.9 seconds flat. If you're into real-life horror stories that'll keep you up at night, you're in the right place. So, grab a drink, dim the lights, and let's dive into this crazy experience. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss my next video. Alright, let's take it back to a summer night in Massachusetts, where things got way too real. I'm Logan, 19 years old, and I grew up in a classic coastal New England town. You know the vibe if you've ever been to one of those spots, small, charming, with salty air, lobster rolls on every menu, and boats bobbing in the harbor. Every summer, me and my crew would spend our days working random jobs. Mine was as a dock boy, hauling ropes and cleaning boats, and our nights getting into all kinds of trouble. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and after work, we'd link up to party, cruise around, or just do dumb stuff to pass the time. This story happened on one of those nights, when I thought it was just gonna be another chill evening with my best friend, Dylan. It was mid-July, and I'd just finished a long shift at the docks. My arms were sore, my shirt smelled like fish, and all I wanted was to kick back with my boys. I texted the group chat to see what was up, and Dylan, who's been my ride or die since we were kids, said he was down to hang. He'd just gotten off his shift at a local restaurant, so I swung by to pick him up. Dylan's the guy with the fake ID in our group, so we made a quick stop at the liquor store to grab some beers before heading back to my place. My family has a small boat, nothing fancy, just a 20-foot runabout that I was allowed to take out on my own. The plan was simple: cruise out to a popular spot where people anchor, crack open some brews, and chill until the rest of our friends were free. We drove the boat out to this little cove on the peninsula, a spot where locals and tourists alike would anchor to hang out, listen to music, and soak in the summer vibes. It was around 7 p.m., still light out, with the sun low in the sky, painting everything in shades of orange and pink. There were a couple other boats already anchored when we got there, one to our left, blasting some classic rock, and another to our right, quieter but with a few people on deck. We found a spot between them, dropped the anchor, and settled in. Dylan and I kicked back on the bow, sipping our beers, talking about nothing important: work, girls, dumb stuff we'd done in high school. The music from the boat to our left was setting the mood, and for a while, it was perfect. Just two dudes, a boat, and the open water. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the vibe shifted a little. The boat to our right pulled up anchor and left, their engine fading into the distance. Not long after, the music from the boat to our left cut off abruptly. We figured they were about to head out too, and in our slightly buzzed state, Dylan and I started yelling, half joking, "Yo, turn the music back on. Keep the party going." We were laughing, being loud and stupid, but nothing happened. The other boat stayed quiet, just bobbing gently in the water. I didn't think much of it at first, but then Dylan nudged me and said, "Dude, look." I turned around, still grinning from our dumb antics, and saw three figures standing on the edge of the other boat, right at the stern, facing us. They weren't moving, just standing there, staring in our direction. My first reaction was to laugh. I was a little drunk, and it seemed funny, like they were sizing us up or something. I turned back to Dylan, but he wasn't laughing. His face was tense, his eyes locked on the figures. Now, I'll admit, I'm not the best at picking up on danger. I'm the guy who assumes everything's fine, always looking for the bright side. But Dylan's not like that. He's got this sixth sense for when something's off, and I could tell he was spooked. "Relax, man," I said, trying to lighten the mood. "They're probably just checking us out, wondering who the loud idiots are." But Dylan didn't budge. He kept staring, his jaw tight. By now, it was getting dark, the only light coming from the other boat's running lights and a faint glow from the shore. The figures were just silhouettes, their faces hidden in the shadows. I couldn't make out any details, but the way they stood there, motionless, started to get under my skin. I tried to shake it off, cracking another beer and changing the subject, but every few seconds, my eyes flicked back to the boat. They were still there, still staring. After a couple minutes of this, I got annoyed. I figured they were messing with us, maybe trying to be creepy for laughs. So, I grabbed the megaphone from the compartment by the steering wheel, every boat's got one for emergencies, and shouted, $20 to watch, fellas. I thought it was hilarious, but Dylan wasn't having it. He snapped, "Dude, knock it off. Something's not right." I rolled my eyes, putting the megaphone back, but then I heard it, a laugh. It came from the other boat, low and slow, almost raspy. It wasn't a normal laugh. It sounded wrong, like it was forced through gritted teeth. My stomach dropped, and for the first time, I felt a real chill. Dylan stood up, his voice urgent. "Let's get the hell out of here, bro. This ain't right." I tried to play it cool, saying, "Chill, it's probably just some drunk dudes messing with us." But before I could finish, we heard two loud splashes from the direction of their boat. I spun around and saw only one silhouette left on the deck. The other two were gone. My heart started pounding. Dylan didn't hesitate, he bolted to the anchor and started pulling it up, his hands moving fast. I was still laughing, thinking he was overreacting, trying to take a sip of my beer while he yanked on the rope. Looking back, I was such an idiot. Then I heard it, splashing, closer now, like someone swimming toward us. Dylan froze, the anchor in his hands, and looked at me with wide eyes. The laughter was gone. I called out, "Hello," into the darkness, my voice shaking a little. No response. The splashing stopped, and the silence was worse. It was like the whole world held its breath. In that moment, 1.9 seconds felt like an eternity. Then, all at once, Dylan yelled, "Oh, shit," and I heard a loud splash right behind me. I whipped around and saw a hand grabbing the back of our boat, fingers curling over the edge. Someone was trying to climb aboard. My heart stopped. I screamed, fumbling for the key in the ignition. As I turned it, I saw another hand grab the railing near Dylan, who was shouting and holding the anchor like a weapon, ready to swing. The engine roared to life, and without thinking, I slammed the throttle forward. The boat lurched, and we smashed straight into a sandbar just ahead of us. The impact threw me forward, nearly knocking me out of the driver's seat. I cursed, threw the boat into reverse, and gunned it backward, praying we wouldn't get stuck. The boat groaned but pulled free, and I kept going until we were out of the cove and into open water. I threw the gear into neutral, and Dylan and I just stared at each other, breathing hard. He was pissed, yelling, "I told you, man. You're such a dumbass." I couldn't argue, I'd been way too cavalier, and now we were both freaking out. We started picking up the stuff that had been thrown around during our escape, beer cans, hoodies, the megaphone, but I stopped dead when I saw lights in the distance. A boat was coming toward us, fast. Too fast. "No freaking way," I muttered, jumping back to the wheel. I pushed the throttle full speed ahead, but our boat was old, not built for racing. The other boat was gaining on us, its bow rising and falling with the waves. Dylan was losing it, shouting, "Who are these guys? What do they want? Why can't they just let us chill?" I told him to calm down, focusing on the lights of the docks in the distance. My hands were shaking on the wheel, my mind racing with possibilities. Were they trying to rob us? Steal the boat? Or something worse? The docks were finally in sight, but the other boat was so close I could see its outline clearly now. I didn't know what to do. In a panic, I cranked the wheel hard to the left, veering toward the shore, praying I wouldn't beach us. Miraculously, the other boat peeled off in the opposite direction, their lights fading into the night. We both let out a shaky breath, but I didn't slow down. I kept the throttle pinned until we reached the docks, my heart pounding the whole way. We tied up the boat, hands still trembling, and checked for damage. Somehow, we'd gotten lucky, nothing was broken. We sat there for a minute, catching our breath, trying to process what the hell had just happened. When we finally met up with our friends later that night, we told them the whole story. They threw out theories, maybe the guys wanted to rob us, maybe they were just messing with us for kicks, or maybe they were after the boat. We didn't recognize their boat, so they probably weren't locals. Honestly, I don't like to think about what would have happened if they'd caught up to us. I'm just glad we didn't find out. Looking back, I owe Dylan big time. If he hadn't been so quick to sense something was wrong, things could have gone south fast. My laid-back attitude almost got us in serious trouble. That night changed how I look at things. I'm not so quick to brush off bad vibes anymore. And yeah, I still take the boat out, but never at night, and never without checking my surroundings first.